Welcome to Coal-Fed Families. This is our third newscast. I'm Randy Walters. With me is Joey Lewis. Joey, as you know, if you've seen the other cast, is a biologist and is involved in water testing throughout the coal industry and has delta testing over in Hyden, Kentucky, where he services a lot of the mining industry from around. The problem that we're discussing with Joey has to do with the new changes in the law brought about by the EPA, which has virtually stopped mountaintop removal. I know the liberal environmentalist sissies like to talk about it like it's something bad, and indeed what has happened, it seemed, is they made everything a lot worse. Joey?
How do you do, Randy? Yeah, we talked a little bit about this on our last cast on this. We touched a little bit on the mountaintop removal issue. The idea behind all this regulatory targeting of our coal industry is water quality. Water quality, that's the big issue about this. The problem is nobody's ever talked about deep mining in this, and this is affecting our deep mining as well as our mountaintop removal and our stripping. Currently, we cannot get a mountaintop removal permit issued. What our industry, we talked a little bit about this, what our industry is forced to do now is contour mining, which involves them to build these small ponds right at the active mining sites along the mine bench. Instead of having one large pond, and generally those ponds are built in series with rock checks that actually control the volume and velocity of the water as it leaves the mine permit or mine site. We now have these bench structures that are on site. Maybe I've got one company that's got around 40 of those along the mining bench that one pond could easily control and have, in my opinion, better water quality because you're not having runoff hit these ponds and exit as quickly. We can actually control with mountaintop removal and hollow fills the velocity of the water as it leaves the mining area before it hits the silt control.
Now the way you're talking is that they have 40 of these benches. Do they have to build 40 ponds?
They build 40 ponds along a continuous mine bench.
The same bench?
Same bench, same contour that they're mining. It could be, there's no, as long as the mining proceeds, they have to keep building these bench structures.
And another thing is too, they stopped hollow fills.
Yeah, there's no more hollow fills. That's a Corps of Engineer issue, and they have really eliminated our ability for mountaintop removal permitting in our coal fields.
All right, so if you're not allowed to do the mountaintop removal, then the problem you run into is how you're going to get the coal, and the next thing that comes up is go back to the old way you used to do it.
Exactly.
And that is, I mean, it's a formula for disaster. And anybody who is from these mountains or has visited these mountains, visited eastern Kentucky, visited the coal fields, knows well that there are mountains you will see when the leaves are gone from the trees that are gapped, that are a mess. And so what the EPA is forcing our coal industry to do is go back to that. And it leaves that mountain open. It leaves it all open to the elements. Instead of being able to remove the top, they have to leave that mountain site, that mine site, open to the elements, and thus that causes the runoff that is more polluted and more dangerous than it would be if it were removed.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, we can actually, the mining industry can control runoff a whole lot better if they have the ability to control that water over thousands of feet rather than hundreds of feet before it hits that silt control.
All right, and then the regulations are now starting to kick in that were so heralded by the environmental groups like the Kentucky Waterways Alliance lady that we talked to, total moron. who didn't even know where the North Fork of the Kentucky was, and she was the head of the Kentucky Waterways Alliance, but who had said that that mining had killed all the aquatic life, despite the fact that the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife has, for years, said the North Fork of the Kentucky is one of the best fisheries in the country. So there's a lot of misinformation out there that people are getting, and it would seem that they're in just a mindset to want to hear the worst and put together their people and government people, and finally they've got people in government in the Obama administration that are that are thinking the same way. They are wanting to totally shut down the mining in this part of the country. And they don't say anything about mining out west. They don't say anything about mining in western Kentucky. It's just the Appalachian mining that they're focused in on. And the trouble is, now all of these glorious regulations that they have come up with through this bureaucracy are starting to go into effect. And what it's going to do is greatly increase your costs out there away from where we are right now, because your electricity most likely comes from coal, and the problem you're going to have is it's going to cost our people a whole lot more money to mine this coal, and they're not going to pay this themselves. Corporations don't do that. They will pass the costs along to the power companies, and guess who gets an increase on their bill? It's you, it's me, it's all of us. So you take a look at the United States, and it's basically that we are, 52% are coal-fed families. That's how much of this nation is powered by coal. And when you start tinkering with the price of coal, and we have the best coal in the country right here, so you start tinkering with the price of that, and up goes your electric bill.
Oh, exactly, Randy. I had real quick, I had a discussion with a gentleman in Frankfurt. We were talking about being able to pull samples. Some of the testing, there's only one or two labs in the state can even do some of the testing that's required. He was talking to me, and I said about all I've become after 25 years of experience in this is a glorified field sampler. And I sort of laughed. He said, I was in a discussion with regulatory people in Frankfurt, and he was talking to me. He said there was a discussion about you had to have a degree in biology in order to go pull a sample out of the creek for some of this testing. And he said, I told him it was ludicrous. And he said, we finally got it talked down to that maybe the project supervisor could oversee the person who was pulling the sample out of the creek.
It's just one regulation after another, and it's just the bureaucracy on steroids. That's what it amounts to. And they are affecting our way of life, and they are affecting your way of life too. So don't think that there's no correlation between us and you out there away from where we are right now. Wherever you're watching this from, you're going to pay for it too. This has been another newscast on coal-fed families. Thanks for watching.